Oke, by the way, apakah sudah dicoba homework-nya kemarin, taks 4? Kak Putra, sudah?
Belum Pak.
Belum, Kak Twista?
Oh, sudah.
Oke, ada kendala ketika mengerjakan taks 4 atau section 4, Kak Twistanya? Enggak ya?
Eh, ya, diulang-ulang terus sih, Pak.
Oke, masih diulang-ulang, boleh ya. Nah, berarti untuk Kak Putra yang belum, it's okay. Kita coba sedikit review lagi. Jadi nanti Kak Putra bisa mengisi lebih baik dan Kak Twista pastinya juga lebih baik lagi karena sudah mengalami pengulangan ya. Oke, wait a second. Saya coba siapin dulu. Ini. Nah, kemarin kita sudah mengerjakan section 3, berarti sekarang kita fokus ke section 4. Sekali lagi, section 4 itu cara mengerjakannya seperti section 1, yaitu bentuknya completion di sini, yaitu ada beberapa teks yang kosong dan kita wajib mengisi. Nah, terkait tentang aturan penulisannya juga sama, jadi gunakan saja huruf kapital semuanya dan cara menjawabnya adalah per ide topik. Ini saran ya, saran dari saya. Jadi untuk per ide atau per topiknya. Karena apa? Kalau tidak di per ide atau per topik, nanti teman-teman langsung mengerjakan semuanya. Jadi akan menambah beban karena tidak terstruktur. Boleh dicoba, boleh tidak. Yang penting adalah teman-teman menemukan cara belajar yang lebih baik. Jadi misalkan di sini sudah ada kategori yang pertama, pembahasan tentang biodiversity hotspot. Nah, berarti satu topik ini nanti pembahasannya pasti 3 poin ini. Apa yang perlu diketahui dari pembahasan biodiversity hotspot? Kita harus mengetahui bahwa ada satu teks yang kosong, yaitu important for locating targets for bla bla bla. Jadi penting untuk melokalisasikan atau menempatkan target untuk apa. Hotspot ini penting untuk target apa. Oh. Next, di sini ada topik kedua yaitu Boris One 2005. Berarti di sini tentang penelitian. Nah, pasti di sini itu satu paket dengan beberapa poin, yaitu di sini. Nah, ini teman-teman harus kuasai dulu nih 3 nih. We're not always rich in, berarti tidak banyak apa. Had higher temperatures ada, memiliki temperatur yang tinggi di temperaturnya itu tinggi tapi di mana? Berarti ini ada beberapa yang tidak. Nah, ada yang tinggi, ada yang tidak kan gitu. Had sufficient bla 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 in the water. Jadi ada beberapa yang sesuai dengan airnya atau di air. Nah, apa? Sufficient apa nih? Nah, kayak gitu. Nah, kalau sudah diidentifikasi sedikit-sedikit persoal sudah dipastikan sudah paham, insya Allah nanti akan lebih mudah ketika mengerjakannya. Jadi caranya bagaimana? Sama seperti ini tadi. Lanjutkan saja untuk topik-topik selanjutnya. Bisa balance. Di sini udah penelitian lagi, berarti kita harus menguasai 2 ini. Nah, misal nih nanti kok saya nggak punya waktu nih, ternyata 30 detik saya hanya bisa tentang 2 topik, ya nggak apa-apa 2 topik. Tapi ketika menjawab ini nanti, misalkan sudah menjawab di sini, dia atau audionya, audio ini itu tidak langsung membahas tentang pertanyaan selanjutnya. Pasti ngomongin Lisa Balance dulu. Dia ngomongin apa? Ada kesempatan nih buat teman-teman memperhatikan. Look for hotspot for marine. Nah, dari dia mencari hotspot untuk titik-titik tawar. Nah, apa nih? Mencari apa nih dia? Gitu. Pasti dia nanti banyak menjelaskan sesuatu karena ada 2 poin. Nah, kalau sudah terjawab, langsung fokus ke sini, senses of marine life. Fokus ke sini, nanti di sini juga ada satu yang kosong. Jadi pembahasannya adalah found new ocean species living. Jadi di sini menemukan habitat baru, gitu ya. Habitatnya itu di mana? Poin kedua petunjuknya adalah near volcanoes on the ocean floor. Jadi dekat gunung berapi di dasar laut kan gitu. Nah, selalu perhatikan seperti itu. Setelah ini terjawab, audio inti masih lanjut, tekankan lagi, dia tidak akan masuk ke topik selanjutnya, dia akan menjelaskan ini, tapi teman-teman sudah masuk ke topik selanjutnya. Selalu coba seperti itu. Jika masih terkendala, satu ini pahami dulu nge-pause-nya, atau nanti ketika belajar, jangan per ini diklik-klik-klik, enggak. Per ide. Jadi dengerin saja biodiversity hotspot, kalau belum ketemu terus dengerin. Kalau dia sudah bahas Boris Worm, stop. Ulangi lagi. Caranya seperti itu. Jangan satu kata klik atau satu kalimat klik berhenti. No ya, itu akan sangat-sangat membingungkan sekali. Karena target teman-teman adalah memahami konteks satu paragraf atau satu ide. Jadi tidak diterjemah secara manual, tapi dipahami maksudnya apa. Ini pentingnya, poin pentingnya apa gitu. Ya, jadi cara memahaminya adalah per ide atau per topik. Langsung. Bagaimana jika ada vocab tertentu yang kita nggak tahu? Kalau teman-teman tahu suaranya seperti apa bisa dicek, tapi saran saya sih cenderung ke prediksi keseluruhan arti. Kira-kira artinya apa? Bisa jadi yang teman-teman bingungkan vocabnya itu bukan jawabannya. Biasanya seperti itu. Karena apa? Jawabannya itu masih cenderung ke casual words. Jadi kata-kata yang umum digunakan. Jadi bukan kata-kata yang sulit, bukan kata-kata akademis yang ribet, bahkan yang tidak digunakan dalam percakapan sehari-hari. Masih menggunakan kata-kata yang umumnya digunakan dalam konteks speaking. Jadi jangan terjebak dengan problem di vocabulary itu sendiri. Oke, mungkin sedikit petunjuk dari saya seperti itu. Kita akan coba mulai dengarkan di sini. Nomor 31 sampai audio pertama saja ya. Let's see first. Second. Videonya.
Section 4. You will hear part of a student presentation about the variety of different species that live in the world's oceans. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
I've been looking at ocean biodiversity, that's the diversity of species that live in the world's oceans. About 20 years ago, biologists developed the idea of what they called biodiversity hotspots. These are the areas which have the greatest mixture of species. So one example is Madagascar. These hotspots are significant because they allow us to locate key areas for focusing efforts at conservation. Biologists can identify hotspots on land fairly easily, but until recently, very little was known about species distribution and diversity in the oceans, and no one even knew if hotspots existed there. Then a Canadian biologist called Boris Worm did some research in 2005 on data on ocean species that he got from the fishing industry. Worm located 5 hotspots for large ocean predators, like sharks, and looked at what they had in common. The main thing he'd expected to find was that they had very high concentrations of food, but to his surprise, that was only true for 4 of the hotspots. The remaining hotspot was quite badly off in that regard. But what he did find was that in all cases, the water at the surface of the ocean had relatively high temperatures, even when it was cool at greater depths. So this seemed to be a factor in supporting a diverse range of these large predators. However, this wasn't enough on its own, because he also found that the water needed to have enough oxygen in it. So these 2 factors seemed necessary to support the high metabolic rate of these large fish. A couple of years later, in 2007, a researcher called Lisa Balance, who was working in California, also started looking for ocean hotspots, but not for fish. What she was interested in was marine mammals, things like seals. And she found 3 places in the oceans which were hotspots, and what these had in common was that these hotspots were all located at boundaries between ocean currents. And this seems to be the sort of place that has lots of the plankton that some of these species feed on. So now people who want to protect the species that are endangered need to get as much information as possible. For example, there's an international project called the Census of Marine Life. They've been surveying oceans all over the world, including the Arctic. One thing they found there, which stunned other researchers, was that there were large numbers of species which live below the ice, sometimes under a layer up to 20 meters thick. Some of these species had never been seen before. They've even found species of octopus living in these conditions. And other scientists working on the same project but researching very different habitats on the ocean floor have found large numbers of species congregating around volcanoes, attracted to them by the warmth and nutrients there. However, biologists still don't know how serious the threat to their survival is for each individual species. So a body called the Global Marine Species Assessment is now creating a list of endangered species on land, so they consider things like the size of the population, how many members of one species there are in a particular place, and then they look at their distribution in geographical terms, although this is quite difficult when you're looking at fish because they're so mobile. And then thirdly, they calculate the rate at which the decline of the species is happening. So far, only 1,500 species have been assessed, but they want to increase this figure to 20,000. For each one they assess, they use the data they collect on that species to produce a map showing its distribution. Ultimately, they will be able to use these to figure out not only where most species are located, but also where they are most threatened. So, finally, what can be done to retain the diversity of species in the world's oceans? Firstly, we need to set up more reserves in our oceans, places where marine species are protected. We have some, but not enough. In addition, to preserve species such as leatherback turtles, which live out in the high seas but have their nesting sites on the American coast, we need to create corridors for migration, so they can get from one area to another safely. As well as this, action needs to be taken to lower the levels of fishing quotas to prevent overfishing of endangered species. And finally, there's the problem of bycatch. This refers to the catching of unwanted fish by fishing boats. They're returned to the sea, but they're often dead or dying. If these commercial fishing boats used equipment which was more selective so that only the fish wanted for consumption were caught, this problem could be overcome. OK, so does anyone have any questions about...
That is the end of section 4. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Oke, semoga makin mantap. 30 detik untuk cek ulang. Sampai sini saya buka pertanyaan buat teman-teman. Siapa yang mau bertanya sesuatu terkait section 4? Apakah semuanya aman? Tidak ada pertanyaan ya? Kalau tidak ada pertanyaan, oke, Kak Putra mau tanya sesuatu?
32 kalimat Pak.
Tinggal 2 kalimat terakhir. Oh,
32 kalimat.
Oh, 32 saja. Oh, itu normal ya. Untuk pemula kalau cuma ketinggalan 1 itu wajar. Nanti saya sertakan tugas-tugasnya. Jadi Kak Putra bisa latihan sendiri. Nggak usah pakai timer dulu. Kalau memang ketinggalan, ya udah diulangi lagi. Gitu ya Kak ya. Tapi kalau cuma 1 atau 2 itu normal untuk pemula ya. Sebenarnya udah cukup bagus kalau untuk pemula 1 atau 2 nomor. Karena target teman-teman memang semuanya aman, lancar, nggak ada yang ketinggalan sama sekali. Kalau nggak yakin, itu sangat-sangat normal lagi ya. Oke, yuk kita bahas nomor 31. Kak Krista dulu. What's your answer for number 31?
Conservation.
Okay, nice one. Conservation. Okay. Number 32. Kak Yoni, silakan.
Food.
Yes. Food. Nah, di sini nih. Di sini itu optional ya. Boleh pakai S, boleh enggak. Tetap oke, tetap dimaafkan. Karena tidak ada indikasi bahwa di sini harus banyak. Ya. Food itu juga boleh, pakai food juga boleh. Okay, next, number 33. Kak Putra, mumpung masuk ini kayaknya Kak Putra keluar masuk ini. Okay, what's your answer for number 33?
Ocean.
Ocean. Belum. Hampir saja tapi mungkin Kak Michelle mau bantu. 33.
Surface.
Nice one. How you spell it?
SURFACES.
Oke, sebenarnya surface ya, nggak usah surfaces. Permukaan di permukaan saja. Kalau surfaces cenderung ke permukaan apa aja nih, lebih dari 1 kan gitu. Sekarang ini kan ocean, jadi 1 permukaannya. Oke, thank you. 34, Kak Twista. What's your answer for 34?
Oxygen.
Okay, how you spell?
OXYAY.
Why?
GEN.
Okay. Thank you. Next, Kak Yoni, 35.
Mammals.
How you spell?
MAMMALS.
Yes, mammal. Okay, nice one. Kak Putra, 36. You heard something? Kira-kira apa itu?
Centimeter.
Oh no, under bla 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 centimeter. Mungkin Kak Michelle bisa bantu?
Ice.
Yes, under the ice, jadi di bawah S. Okay, next 37 Kak Krista lagi.
Species.
Species, no. Kak Yoni bisa bantu? 37.
Decline.
Yes, correct. How you spell?
DECLINE.
Nice one. Decline. Rate of decline atau rate of declining itu juga boleh ya. Boleh. 38. Kak Putra, silakan.
Species.
Distribution species? No. Mungkin Kak Michelle?
Map.
Yes, map. Okay, nice one. Next, 39. Kak Krista.
Migration.
Okay, migration. Nice one. Kak Yoni. 40.
Consumption.
Yes. Consumption. Silahkan diprediksi. Jika banyak benarnya, berarti teman-teman sudah ready untuk mempelajari semuanya. Hanya tinggal review-review saja sih, latihan-latihan ulang. Tapi kalau masih banyak salahnya, berarti harus lebih pelan lagi. Harus belajar lebih pelan lagi. Seperti saran saya yang tadi, pelajari cara memahami listening itu per ide atau per topik. Jangan langsung mencari di sini apa, terus dengerin audionya. No. Setiap listening itu ada topiknya, jadi kuasai per topik. Itu saran saya. Pelan-pelan saja, nggak apa-apa. Kalau perlu dipotong-potong itu per topiknya, jadi lebih menguasainya nanti di situ. Nah, di sini kan sudah ada jawabannya tuh. Itu akan lebih membantu. Jadi coba aja prediksi maknanya apa, setelah itu dengarkan kembali. Apakah sudah sesuai? Gitu. Karena saya yakin di sana juga teksnya beda karena berbentuk cerita. Jadi kita harus memahami konteksnya berupa kesimpulan, bukan penerjemahan. Nah, jadi sekali lagi buat yang sudah lancar bisa mengikuti semuanya, berarti teman-teman sudah ready untuk meningkatkan skornya itu dengan sering-sering latihan. Sekarang kita akan mereview semuanya dari section 1 sampai section 4. Mungkin tidak akan sampai section 4 ya, tapi setidaknya kita akan coba review dari section 1 semampunya aja, nanti sampai waktunya habis berapa itu aja. Tapi tetap ditulis kesalahannya berapa. Buat pribadi saja, tidak perlu dibagikan, tapi setidaknya teman-teman tahu kan targetnya. Dari 40 soal, targetnya benar 30. Tuh. Oke, mungkin ada pertanyaan dulu dari sini. Cukup, tidak ada pertanyaan. Siap, lanjut berarti.
Mau tanya Pak? Mau
Silakan,
tanya Pak?
Pak Putra,
Kalau
silakan.
untuk prediction tesnya itu kan ada simulasi di akhir Pak ya? Di akhir atau di pekan pertama Pak?
Oh, gini, sebenarnya tes prediksinya itu kita lakukan per skill, bukan serentak. Jadi misalkan minggu ini kita fokus listening, ya udah tes prediksinya khusus listening saja hari Jumat nanti. Nah, gitu.
Jumatnya itu berarti soalnya beda atau sama Pak?
Apanya?
Soalnya beda atau sama?
Oh ya beda, tidak mungkin yang sudah disediakan di sini, pasti beda. Kalau sudah
Oh,
disediakan di sini hanya untuk latihan-latihan saja, untuk memahami kondisi dan medannya seperti ini. Nanti kalau sudah ujian, ya bisa jadi topiknya udah ganti, bukan sesuatu yang udah kita pernah pelajari di minggu awal ya. Itu ya Kak Putra ya.
ya Pak Masih.
Jadi tes prediksinya ada 4 kali. Yang pertama listening, nanti minggu keduanya reading, minggu ketiganya writing, minggu keempatnya baru speaking. Seperti itu. Tidak ada langsung serentak. Kalau serentak nanti butuh waktu 3 sampai 3,5 jam. Nah, jadi yang penting di sini target teman-teman adalah per skillnya harus tahu mana yang saya dominan dan mana yang saya yang kurang. Misalkan nih teman-teman, wah listening sama reading jago, writingnya kurang, misalkan speakingnya udah jago. Berarti yang paling perlu dipelajari lebih keras adalah di writing. Yang lain tetap dipelajari, tetap diulas, tapi ringan saja. Ya mungkin seminggu 2 kali atau 3 kali cukup. Tapi writingnya harus lebih intens karena teman-teman bermasalah di situ. Ya. Oke, jika tidak ada pertanyaan, dan sekarang kita masuk ke section 1 lagi, sifatnya review. Jadi teman-teman silahkan dipersiapkan papernya. Oke, jika sudah siap semuanya, kita coba mulai. Cara-caranya seperti yang sudah saya sharekan sebelumnya, jadi semoga teman-teman masih ingat, walaupun nggak seakurat sebelumnya, tapi setidaknya sudah mulai ready untuk review semuanya. So, let's get started.
IELTS 14, Tests 1 to 4. Published by Cambridge University Press and Uckles 2019. This recording is copyright. Test 1. You will hear a number of different recordings and you will have to answer questions on what you hear. There will be time for you to read the instructions and questions, and you will have a chance to check your work. All the recordings will be played once only. The test is in 4 sections. At the end of the test, you will be given 10 minutes to transfer your answers to an answer sheet. Now turn to section 1. Section 1. You will hear a woman reporting a theft to an officer in a police station. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 3. You will see that there is an example that has been done for you. On this occasion only, the conversation relating to this will be played first.
Good morning. What can I do for you?
I want to report a theft. I had some things stolen out of my bag yesterday.
I'm sorry to hear that. Right, so I'll need to take a few details. Can I start with your name?
Louise Taylor.
The woman's name is Louise Taylor. So Taylor has been written in the space. Now we shall begin. You should answer the questions as you listen, because you will not hear the recording a second time. Listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 3.
Good morning. What can I do for you?
I want to report a theft. I had some things stolen out of my bag yesterday.
I'm sorry to hear that. Right, so I'll need to take a few details. Can I start with your name?
Louise Taylor.
Okay, thank you. And are you resident in the UK?
No, I'm actually Canadian, though my mother was British.
And your date of birth?
December 14th, 1977.
So you're just visiting this country?
That's right. I come over most summers on business. I'm an interior designer, and I come over to buy old furniture. Antiques, you know? There are some really lovely things around here, but you need to get out to the small towns. I've had a really good trip this year, until this happened.
Okay. So you've been here quite a while?
Yes, I'm here for 2 months. I go back next week.
So, may I ask where you're staying now?
Well, at present, I've got a place at Park Apartments. That's on King Street. I was staying at the Riverside Apartments on the same street, but the apartment there was only available for 6 weeks, so I had to find another one.
Okay. And the apartment number?
15.
Right.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 4 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 4 to 10.
Now, I need to take some details of the theft. So, you said you had some things stolen out of your bag?
That's right.
And were you actually carrying the bag when the theft took place?
Yes, I really can't understand it. I had my backpack on, and I went into a supermarket to buy a few things, and when I opened it up, my wallet wasn't there.
And what did your wallet have in it?
Well, fortunately, I don't keep my credit cards in that wallet. I keep them with my passport in an inside compartment in my backpack, but there was quite a bit of cash there, about £250 I should think. I withdrew £300 from my account yesterday, but I did a bit of shopping, so I must have already spent about £50 of that.
Okay.
At first I thought, oh, I must have left the wallet back in the apartment. But then I realized my phone had gone as well. It was only a week old, and that's when I realized I'd been robbed. Anyway, at least they didn't take the keys to my rental car.
Yes. So, you say the theft occurred yesterday?
Yes.
So that was September the 10th? And do you have any idea at all of where or when the things might possibly have been stolen?
Well, at first I couldn't believe it because the bag had been on my back ever since I left the apartment after lunch. It's just a small backpack, but I generally use it when I'm traveling because it seems safer than a handbag. Anyway, I met up with a friend, and we spent a couple of hours in the museum. But I do remember that as we were leaving there, at about 4 o'clock, a group of young boys ran up to us, and they were really crowding round us, and they were asking us what time it was. Then, all of a sudden, they ran off.
Can you remember anything about them?
The one who did most of the talking was wearing a T-shirt with a picture of something. Let's see. A tiger.
Right. Any idea of how old he might have been?
Around 12 years old?
And can you remember anything else about his appearance?
Not much. He was quite thin.
Color of hair?
I do remember that. He was blonde. All the others were dark-haired.
And any details of the others?
Not really. They came and went so quickly.
Right. So, what I'm going to do now is give you a crime reference number so you can contact your insurance company. So, this is 10 digits. 87954 82361.
Thank you. So, should I contact you?
That is the end of section 1. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Oke, silahkan gunakan 30 detik untuk cross-check. Setelah ini kita coba langsung masuk ke section 2. Yang mau tanya dulu boleh. Fokus mengerjakan 30 detik juga boleh.
Saya cuma usul aja, Pak.
Ya,
Now
Saya
turn to section 2.
oke, silakan Kak Putra.
nanti di-share Pak ya, saya ini karena sinyalnya nggak stabil, jadi nomor 3 sama yang 6 kelewat.
Oke, di sini nanti ada rekamannya. Nah, ini sudah waktunya saya untuk apa itu istilahnya upload bagian rekaman-rekaman untuk IELTS. Nanti saya akan sertakan linknya, jadi teman-teman tinggal klik-klik saja untuk day 1, day 2, day 3. Ya, Kak Putra ya.
Gimana, makasih Pak.
Oke, sama-sama. Oke, sekarang kita lanjut ke section 2. Section 2 kali ini tidak ada gambarnya guys, jadi matching saja. Di sini itu otomatis teman-teman memilih 2 langsung. Which two pieces of advice? Jadi tidak perlu urut, yang penting 2. 3 dan 14 juga gitu, tidak perlu urut, yang penting 2. Kalau yang di sini ada 3 jawaban. It's encouraged, there are some restriction, and it's against rules. Ini pertanyaannya, kira-kira pembahasan tentang misalkan internet itu dari 3 kategori ini yang mana? Nanti teman-teman tinggal pilih saja 16 apa, A misalkan 16 B. Kemungkinan karena jawabannya ada 3, boleh double. Jadi A, 16A, 17A, misalkan seperti itu. Oke. Okay, so let's get started.
Section 2. You will hear a manager giving a welcome talk to a group of apprentices who are starting their training at the company. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 14. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 14.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Janet Parker, and I'm the Human Resources Manager. We're very happy to welcome you to your new apprenticeship. I hope that the next 6 months will be a positive and enjoyable experience for you. I'd like to start with some general advice about being an apprentice. Most of you have very little or no experience of working for a big organisation, and the first week or so may be quite challenging. There will be a lot of new information to take in, but don't worry too much about trying to remember everything. The important thing is to check with someone if you're not sure what to do. You'll find your supervisor is very approachable and won't mind explaining things or helping you out. You're here to learn, so make the most of that opportunity. You'll be spending time in different departments during your first week, so make an effort to talk to as many people as possible about their work. You'll make some new friends and find out lots of useful information. As well as having a supervisor, you'll each be assigned a mentor. This person will be someone who's recently completed an apprenticeship, and you'll meet with them on a weekly basis. Their role is to provide help and support throughout your apprenticeship. Of course, this doesn't mean they'll actually do any of your work for you. Instead, they'll be asking you about what goals you've achieved so far, as well as helping you to identify any areas for improvement. You can also discuss your more long-term ambitions with them as well.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 15 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 15 to 20.
Now, I just want to run through a few company policies for our apprenticeship scheme with you. Most importantly, the internet. As part of your job, you'll be doing some research online, so obviously you'll have unlimited access for that. But please don't use it for personal use. You'll have your own phones for that. Some of you have already asked me about flexible working. After your probationary 3-month period, some of you will be eligible for this, but it will depend on which department you're in and what your personal circumstances are, so please don't assume you'll automatically be permitted to do this. I want to make sure there's no confusion about our holiday policy. Apart from any statutory public holidays, we ask that you don't book any holidays until after your 6-month apprenticeship has finished. Time off should only be taken if you are unwell. Please speak to your supervisor if this is going to be a problem. You'll be expected to work a 40-hour week, but there may be opportunities to do overtime during busy periods. Although you're not required to do this, it can be a valuable experience, so we advise you to take it up if possible. Obviously, we understand that people do have commitments outside work, so don't worry if there are times when you are unavailable. As you know, we don't have a formal dress code here. You may wear casual clothes as long as they're practical. And the only restriction for shoes we have is on high heels for health and safety reasons. Comfortable shoes like trainers are preferable. There's a heavily subsidised canteen on site where you can get hot meals or salads cheaply. Snacks and drinks are also provided, so we've decided to introduce a no-packed lunch policy. This is partly to encourage healthy eating at work and partly to stop people from eating at their workstation, which is unhygienic. Okay, moving on to...
That is the end of section 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Siapkan dulu.
Now turn to section 3.
Coba lanjut ke section 3. Oke, section 3 seperti biasanya ada pilihan ganda nomor 21 sampai nomor 25, nomor 26 sampai 30 menyesuaikan. Kira-kira sampai sini masih kuat ya? Konsentrasinya masih aman? Oke, kita coba.
Section 3. You will hear 2 urban planning students called Carla and Rob discussing their presentation on cities built by the sea, following instructions from their tutor. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 25. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 25.
Okay, so what I'd like you to do now is to talk to your partner about your presentations on urban planning. You should have done most of the reading now, so I'd like you to share your ideas and talk about the structure of your presentation and what you need to do next.
OK, Rob, I'm glad we chose quite a specific topic, cities built next to the sea. It made it much easier to find relevant information.
Yeah, and cities are growing so quickly. I mean, we know that more than half the world's population lives in cities now.
Yeah, though that's all cities, not just ones on the coast. But most of the biggest cities are actually built by the sea. I'd not realised that before.
Nor me. And what's more, a lot of them are built at places where rivers come out into the sea, but apparently this can be a problem.
Why?
Well, as the city expands, agriculture and industry tend to spread further inland along the rivers, and so agriculture moves even further inland up the river. That's not necessarily a problem, except it means more and more pollutants are discharged into the rivers.
So these are brought downstream to the cities?
Right. Did you read that article about Miami on the east coast of the USA?
No.
Well, apparently back in the 1950s, they built channels to drain away the water in case of flooding.
Sounds sensible.
Yeah, they spent quite a lot of money on them, but what they didn't take into account was global warming. So they built the drainage channels too close to sea level, and now sea levels are rising, they're more or less useless. If there's a lot of rain, the water can't run away. There's nowhere for it to go. The whole design was faulty.
So what are the authorities doing about it now?
I don't know. I did read that they're aiming to stop disposing of wastewater into the ocean over the next 10 years.
But that won't help with flood prevention now, will it?
No, really, they just need to find the money for something to replace the drainage channels in order to protect against flooding now. But in the long term, they need to consider the whole ecosystem.
Right. Really, though, coastal cities can't deal with their problems on their own, can they? I mean, they've got to start acting together at an international level instead of just doing their own thing.
Absolutely. The thing is, everyone knows what the problems are, and environmentalists have a pretty good idea of what we should be doing about them, so they should be able to work together to some extent. But it's going to be a long time before countries come to a decision on what principles they're prepared to abide by.
Yeah, if they ever do.
Before you hear the rest of the discussion, you have some time to look at questions 26 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 26 to 30.
So, I think we've probably got enough for our presentation. It's only 15 minutes.
OK, so I suppose we'll begin with some general historical background about why coastal cities were established. But we don't want to spend too long on that. The other students will already know a bit about it. It's all to do with communications and so on.
Yes. We should mention some geographical factors, things like wetlands and river estuaries and coastal erosion and so on. We could have some maps of different cities with these features marked.
On a handout, you mean? Or some slides everyone can see?
Yeah, that'd be better.
It'd be good to go into past mistakes in a bit more detail. Did you read that case study of the problems there were in New Orleans with flooding a few years ago?
Yes, we could use that as the basis for that part of the talk. I don't think the other students will have read it, but they'll remember hearing about the flooding at the time.
OK. So that's probably enough background.
So then we'll go on to talk about what action's been taken to deal with the problems of coastal cities.
OK. What else do we need to talk about? Maybe something on future risks, looking more at the long term if populations continue to grow?
Yeah, we'll need to do a bit of work there. I haven't got much information, have you?
No, we'll need to look at some websites. Shouldn't take too long.
OK. And I think we should end by talking about international implications. Maybe we could ask people in the audience. We've got people from quite a lot of different places.
That'd be interesting, if we have time, yes. So now, shall we go on?
That is the end of section 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to section 4.
Oke, karena section 4-nya tidak memungkinkan sekali, jadi kita cross-check dulu jawabannya untuk section 1 dulu. Oke. Jadi coba apa adanya ya, misalkan, waduh dari 30 soal yang terisi cuma 25, oh nggak apa-apa. Yang penting apa adanya dulu. Besok kita latihan lagi full. Sekarang kita cross check untuk jawabannya. Nomor 1, mungkin Kak Putra bisa menjawab.
Canadian.
Yes, correct. Canadian. This one. Okay, number 2, Kak Michelle.
Furniture.
Okay. Furniture. Okay, number 3, Kak Twista.
Park.
Yes, correct. Nice one. Number 4, Kak Yoni.
250.
250, nice one. Number 5, Kak Putra.
Kelewat, Pak. Tadi terputus.
Okay, Kak Michelle, number 5.
Phone.
Yes, nice one. Phone. Kak Twista, number 6.
September 10.
September 10. Nah, ini boleh ya. Jadi langsung digabung saja, nggak apa-apa ini. Jadi misalkan tulis 10 dulu juga nggak apa-apa. Langsung tulis September gitu, nggak apa-apa. Nih, tanpa ada TH-TH-nya, itu it's okay.
Disambung atau dipisah?
Disambung saja, September 10. Okay, number 7, Kak Yoni.
Museum.
Yes, correct. Number 8, Kak Putra.
Si putus, Pak, sinyalnya.
Putus, okay. Kak Michelle.
Time.
Yes, correct. Number 9, Kak Krista.
Loan.
Yes. Tulis gini boleh, tulis gini juga boleh. Terakhir Kak Yoni.
X79.
X79.
823.
Fifth. No, you cannot say fifth here. You can say 5-4.
Ya, ya.
Okay, terus.
2361.
2361. Oh iya, tapi kehilangan 8-nya.
Ya.
Penduduk,
Miss.
3, and then 61. Oh, 1. Okay. Silahkan dicatat. Salah berapa? Oke, sudah clear ya. Sekarang kita coba bahas di section kedua, jawabannya saja. Nah, Kak Putra, number 11 and 12. Kira-kira jawabannya apa?
C and D.
C and D. C-nya saja benar, D-nya salah. Kak Michelle, apa?
C and A.
Yes, C and A, correct. Kak Twista, 13 and 14.
B and A. B and E.
B and E. Kalau A nanti jadi confidence building. Okay, correct. Nice one. Next, number 15, Kak Yoni.
B.
Bravo, oke, betul sekali. Kak Putra, 16.
C.
Incorrect. Kak Michelle, 16.
B.
Yes, correct. Kak Twista, number 17.
B.
Incorrect. Kak Yoni. 17.
C.
Yes. Kak Putra. 18.
A.
Yes, correct. Kak Michelle. Number 19.
A.
Yes, correct. Kak Krista. A. Silahkan ditulis salahnya berapa. Nah, dari sini saja teman-teman sudah bisa melihat skornya. Dari section 1 dan 2 saja sudah bisa melihat skornya sementara berapa. Kalau sudah di antara skor 5 dan 6, ya insya Allah nanti section 3 dan apa itu namanya, section 3 dan 4-nya bisa sedikit bertambah atau malah banyak bertambah. Oke, seperti itu. Untuk section 3 kita bahas besok, sekaligus kita latihan section 4 dan kita bahas dan kita cek total skornya berapa untuk simulasi pertama. Jadi ada 2 simulasi ya, hari ini dan besok simulasi. Nah, itu sudah cukup untuk pandangan persiapan apakah ujiannya sebenarnya teman-teman siap atau tidak. Sebenarnya sudah bisa, tapi tetap jalani saja sampai ujian. Kita lihat perbandingan skor simulasi pertama, simulasi kedua, dan tes prediksi ketiganya gimana. Apakah nilainya jauh beda atau di angka yang mirip-mirip? Kalau di angka yang mirip-mirip berarti stabil, kalau jauh beda berarti tidak stabil, kalau tidak stabil sebenarnya berarti lebih banyak menggunakan feeling daripada pemahaman. Biasanya seperti itu. Mungkin seperti itu saja. Ada yang mau ditanyakan dulu teman di pertemuan kali ini? Cukup? Tidak ada pertanyaan? Aman ya? Kalau tidak ada pertanyaan, mungkin kita akan lanjut besok lagi. So, thank you guys for joining today. Have a great day and see you again for tomorrow. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bye-bye.
Terima kasih, Mas.
Thank you.
Welcome. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr.
Welcome.